This video was sponsored by Squarespace.
Stephen King is my favorite author. I love his books so much that I like to read his books, touch his books, eat with his books, heck, even nap with his books. These are my Stephen King shelves. Yes, this is every single Stephen King book that I own. I own over 50 Stephen King novels. Yes, I counted them myself. But here's the thing. You'd be surprised to find out that I haven't read every single Stephen King book that I've ever purchased. But that changes with today's video. I'm gonna be reading every single unread Stephen King book that I own. There's 4 books that I haven't read yet. So in today's video, we're gonna be reading those Stephen King novels to see if he's still my favorite author of all time. Bag of Bones. Yes, Bag of Bones. Oh, for those of you who've been with me for so long, you know that this is a book that I've struggled with many times. And it's not because it's a bad book. Oh gosh, is it not? It's actually really freaking good. There's just some content in this book that I didn't appreciate, but you know what? I'm not gonna let that stop me. I love Stephen King. I've just not given this book its due. This will be the 3rd and final attempt that I make at this book on this channel. The last time I read this was in December, or at least I tried to read this in December and I got halfway through. I have spent the last week or so getting back to that spot that I got to last time. Yes, I'm already 260 pages deep into this book. I didn't want to restart because, well, there's 2 videos on this channel already. Essentially, this book starts off with author Mike Noonan. His wife dies of a brain aneurysm and he develops writer's block. And I'm talking violent writer's block. Anytime he approaches his typewriter, anytime he thinks about writing, he gets violently sick, throws up, can't do it. This lasts for many years until he eventually decides he needs a vacation. And he goes to his and his late wife's lake house known as Sarah Laughs. And it's here that he's going to try to face the grief of losing his wife and hopefully discover the love of writing again. In true Stephen King fashion, this is 100% a ghost story, and there are haunting dreams and creepy occurrences within the lake house. But on top of this, there's several side plots that are happening at the same time. Mike gets involved in a friendly way with a young woman who's a resident of this little community on the lake. She has a little daughter and her father-in-law is trying to steal her daughter away from her. And then also, on top of that, well, that's it, right? So it's like this literary fiction, horror, suspense, thriller book. It's everything, right? It's everything packaged in one, as Stephen King often does. And I'm actually really excited to get back to it. Bag of Bones! I've been reading this sucker all day. This is today's progress. Yeah. What? We started at 260 today. At least that's where this video started. I'm on 421. That's pretty good, right? And I think this book is 529 pages. So we are 108 pages away from being done with Bag of Bones. In my 2 previous attempts of this book, you know, I didn't think I'd make it. I decided to push through it this time, and it has been well freaking worth it. In essence, this book is a ghost story. I think I've already said that. I've had to have. It's about ghosts. You know, there's a main point to this book, but then there's several different side plots that he goes on to kind of flesh everything out. One of the side plots I thought was kind of becoming the main attraction of the story, and then something crazy happens that I didn't see coming. Like, threw me through a loop. It was one of those, oh, by the way, this thing happened. The story is dramatically different from that point forward. And I thought, are we not going to talk about... Okay, we're not going to talk about it. Oh, we're moving on. And now the ghost aspect is coming back into the focal point, and it is brutal. It is like, take all of those ghost story tropes that we're all familiar with, and then imagine it on crack. Stephen King knocks on the floorboards or crying down the hall, children laughter, you know, footsteps, and just everything you can possibly imagine, and he's just cranking it up to 11. But at the same time, it's also literary fiction, so there's this family drama, and there's this beautiful love story starting to bubble up between the cracks of this tale about grief. But then there's also a mystery thriller element to the ghost aspect of everything. There's some secrets and there's some history that this small little town wants to keep buried and that they're all scared of coming out. As a staunch Stephen King fan, I'm always looking out to see where things connect to his broader multiverse. Because if you didn't know, Stephen King wrote this amazing fantasy series known as The Dark Tower. Incredible freaking series, life-changing if you're willing to give it a shot. But here's the thing about it. Every single book that he's written somehow is connected throughout this multiverse. Not just to each other, but to the story of The Dark Tower. And so I'm thinking, how is this connected? Well, first and foremost, this man lives in Derry, Maine. Derry, Maine is a fictional small town of Stephen King's brilliant imagination. Already, there's the connection, right? Derry is the setting of a lot of major Dark Tower-esque novels like It and Insomnia. And so the fact that he lives in Derry is crazy in itself. He's also mentioned Castle Rock, which is another fictional town of Stephen King's creation. It sounds like it's very close to where he's staying at this lake house. There's so many Castle Rock stories. Needful Things is one that comes to mind, and then countless freaking short stories of his are set in this Castle Rock location or Castle County. But then another connection that I really found fascinating was the mention of the Micmac Indians. The Micmac tribe is also a fictional Indian tribe, and they play a huge role, at least their burial ground plays a huge role in the book Pet Sematary. So all of this is also combining on top of this freaking story, and I get the point. I get the point. Everyone's like, Ian, have you read Bag of Bones? Man, you need to read Bag of Bones. I'm so happy that I did. I'm so happy that I did. And now that I'm at the finish line, I can't stop. But it is midnight and I cannot keep going. So I'm physically gonna put it down and we're gonna get back to this tomorrow. But oh my gosh, third time's the freaking charm on this one. What's up? I haven't updated you since this morning. Gosh, where am I at? I actually have no idea. I think I'm on I can't speak. I'm on page 46 of 529. This book gets heavier by the minute. He keeps heaping layers and layers to this plot that now the true story has been unmasked. It's like a psychedelic experience, bro. This is just trippy. I didn't expect this. I really didn't. Once you get past the halfway mark of this book, Stephen King takes you on a roller coaster ride. Pray for me. Here we go. Let's finish Bag of Bones. So I finished Bag of Bones. In fact, I finished it a few hours ago. It's actually 12:30 in the morning. I just can't sleep right now. And, you know, there's a pretty nice thunderstorm going on outside. So I thought I might as well just come and tell you my thoughts on Bag of Bones. This book is a paranormal terror. To be honest, it's quite unforgettable. Thunder. This book is actually quite a scary horror story. If there's one thing Stephen King is so good at, it's making you feel uneasy and making you feel uncomfortable, but at the same time giving you characters to love and root for. Just a really enthralling story to captivate your mind. Bag of Bones, I look back on the other two times I attempted this book and realize I was the problem the entire time. This book is fantastic. It definitely packs a punch, man. Stephen King, again, sticks the landing 10 out of 10. He makes you want to cry, weep with exhaustion. You feel just like his characters. You know that they're done. They're so tired, yet they've made it to the other side, and what a freaking journey it's been. It still never ceases to amaze me the little ways he connects all of his stories. Like, this one was no different. Further on in the novel, he mentioned Juniper Hill, which is an asylum that he created for his, in this fictional Maine. He also mentioned Shawshank Prison, which comes up in multiple stories. Those are just two of the really subtle ways he connects all of his books. But what I found most interesting near the end of the book was the mentioning of a being known as an outsider. I was immediately struck by that because I know he has a book that he wrote within the last 5 years or so called The Outsider, which I think is another cosmic horror. Is Bag of Bones where he first came up with the idea? I haven't done any research on it yet because I don't really want to spoil anything for myself. Connection there has to be. He's just so flippin' good at his job. But guys, that's the first book. Alrighty, folks. Book 2. But before we move on, let's hear a word from today's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one website platform for entrepreneurs and those looking to build the perfect dream website online. They have hundreds of layout options and absolutely everything is customizable. Squarespace makes it so incredibly easy to engage with your audience, while simultaneously making it incredibly easy to sell whatever kind of products and or content you're trying to promote online. It's all in one place and it's all on your terms. Squarespace's new design AI empowers you to create the perfect dream website with everything that you're looking for store with just the click of a button. If you're interested in giving Squarespace a shot, head on over to squarespace.com today to start a free trial, or click the link down below in the description to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thank you so much again to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. Back to the king, baby. We're going to be reading different seasons. This is probably his most famous short story collection. At least it has some of his most famous short stories in it. 3 out of the 4 novellas in this collection have had very successful movie adaptations. 2 of them are critically acclaimed, and 1, I think, is considered IMDb's greatest movie of all time. Because of that fact, you know what I think I'm going to do? I'm going to read one of these every single day, and the ones that have adaptations, we're going to finish off the evening with checking it out. Maybe see if is the book better than the movie. I've seen 2 of these movies. I haven't seen the 3rd. They're pretty dang good. I've yet to read the source material. Let's see if Stephen King can still live up to his own hype. Starting with Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption. I could not be more excited to finally sink my teeth into this story. All right. Time to get to it. For those of you unfamiliar with Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption, oh, let me tell you. This is the story about Andy Dufresne, a man who is thrown in jail for a crime he did not commit. We follow Andy through his imprisonment for about 20 years until inevitably he finds his escape through the most unlikely of means. This novella has some of King's most memorable characters he's ever written. You really should pick this up. It's incredible. Just made dinner and finished the novella. Let's watch this movie. Never mind. I got a copyright strike while trying to upload this video to YouTube because I had clips of the Shawshank freaking Redemption in my video. So yeah, none of that. That sucks. If you want to go see the movie, it's fantastic. Watch it for yourself. This really sucks because that montage was hilarious. I'm so sorry, guys. Well, we did it. Last night, not only did I read the entirety of Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption, but I also watched the entire movie. Incredible, right? Incredible. Reading and watching that story back to back in different formats and different mediums, that's like one of the best adaptations I've ever seen. I've seen that movie multiple times. It's one of my favorite movies even before I figured out it was adapted from a Stephen King novella, right? Who knew? But the novella? I don't know how he does it, but Stephen King has a way of making such a short story feel so full length. Shawshank was only 132 pages, but it felt like I'd read an entire 400, 500 page novel. There was that much character development, plot development. I mean, everything had an arc and everything finished beautifully. The movie, of course, embellished on certain points. The movie didn't take away from what Stephen King created. It just filled in the blanks. I have begun the 2nd short story, Apt Pupil. Yes, if you can even see that. I believe this is the longest story in this collection. I'm already on page 195, so I am like 60 plus pages deep into this. I went into this blind. I have never heard of Apt Pupil before. I didn't even realize there was a movie adaptation until last night. If I don't get to the adaptation, I'll get to it by the end of this video. And that is exactly what happened, so stick around to the end to see my reaction to that movie. Apt Pupil is essentially the story of a young boy who figures out that an elderly gentleman down the street is a former SS Nazi officer. They strike up a rather unfriendly relationship because the boy essentially blackmails the older man into telling him all of his secrets, or else he'll expose him for what he did during the war. When I tell you that this story gets unhinged and unhinged fast, I'm not kidding. Things get out of hand so quickly and come out of left field so abruptly that it's hard to keep up. But with how that sucker freaking ended, I can only imagine how the movie is gonna adapt it. This novella probably has Stephen King's most tense scene I've ever read. Holy crap. Good evening, friends, family, and intimate reading associates. You know what's funny? I intended this video to be the last 4 King novels that I have to read in my collection. Wouldn't you know it, somebody sent me 2 new ones. Sadly, I'm not going to read them in this video because I don't have time, because I kind of gave myself a deadline for this video. These books came in the mail. Somebody sent these my way, and I couldn't be more grateful. The first is The Talisman. Oh my... Excuse me. Gosh. What? This is beautiful. But that's not all. They also sent me its sequel, Black House. I'm flying high. Enough of me rambling. What's book 2? Book 2 is Joyland. Is this video, is this, I feel like this, hang on. I tried to have it be moody lighting and stuff. That's not working. Joyland, yes. Stephen King, being the master of genres that he is, dabbles in pretty much everything. Joyland belongs to Stephen King's family of hard case crime. He's written 2 other novels, as far as I'm aware, in this same genre. One is Later, and the other is The Colorado Kid. Both are decent. Colorado Kid's kind of boring, but I've yet to read Joyland, though. Of all the books in this video, this is the one I have no idea about. I've not even touched the back. I'm not going to. I'm just going to go into it blind and see what see what happens. So here we go. Okay, so far this is actually pretty good. Mystery thriller vibes going on. I can't believe I already forgot this. I'm already 60 pages in and I forget the main character's freaking name. But Devin, he's a college student, I think in New England somewhere. He gets a job at an amusement park over the summer in North Carolina. And as he gets a job and he's going around on the tour, he hears a story that the horror house on Joyland premises is haunted because there was a murder in broad daylight and the man was never caught. Dark legacy of this terrible tragic event that's happened. It's kind of a weight that kind of hangs on this place, but yet they still go forward and try to sell fun to those who are seeking it at Joyland. Honestly, it's already pretty good. I like his first person prose. Again, I think I've said this in other videos, but Stephen King, whenever he writes in first person, he somehow manages to make each first person voice slightly different from the last, right? I just finished Christine and I just finished Bag of Bones. From the perspective of a 22-year-old man looking back on his life when he was 17, it feels that way. Bag of Bones, a 40-year-old man who just lost his wife. It feels like it was told from a 40-year-old's perspective. This feels like a college student. Amazing how he can do that. Crime fiction by Stephen King. You know, who knew? Stephen King does it yet again. Whatever the secret sauce that he pumps in to his books, wild. I'm hooked. Look at that. At least 60-something%. Page 192 in like 3-4 hours. I haven't even gotten to like the crime part, the thriller part. This book isn't even 300 pages. We are over the hump of the middle, and guess what? The crazy stuff hasn't even happened yet. There has been an incident, and there's been some other stuff that's gone on. No crime stuff. Not yet. I'm bursting with anticipation. Please don't mistake my enthusiasm as, oh wow, Ian, did you find like the greatest Stephen King book ever written? Is this your favorite? No. It's just almost 1 o'clock in the morning and I'm really tired, but I'm also really hungry. And so that mixture's kind of making me a little loopy. And I felt like I needed to kind of walk around like this and get the blood pumping before I set in for the third act of this book. Joyland. You know, as far as thrillers go, it's quite pulpy. And that's exactly how I like my crime fiction. I'm not gonna lie, this felt like I was reading The Shining, only instead of it being at a hotel, it was at an amusement park. And the one with the shine isn't the main character. It was fun. Now I've gotten all of his crime fiction under my belt. I really shouldn't have stayed up, but I couldn't put the book down. It was just that entertaining. I will catch back up with you tomorrow. Last and final book of this video. But before I do that, we gotta finish different seasons, starting with The Body. The Body is one of Stephen King's most tender coming-of-age stories about 4 friends that embark on an epic, life-changing journey. The end destination, of course, is, well, to look at a dead body. Which, now that I say that, sounds kind of morbid. And again, the story is about people, young people, finding friendship, holding on to those friendships, losing their innocence at the sight of something so real and so vivid. Definitely one of King's best short stories. And then there's the breathing method. I mean, what the fetch do I even say about this story? It's one of those crazy Stephen King stories within a stories within a stories kind of thing. Friends, family, and intimate reading associates. It's done. I just finished the breathing method, and right before that I finished The Body. Formulating thoughts on both of those is quite the task. With The Body, of course I've seen the movie Stand By Me. We're actually about to watch that movie in a few minutes, so get excited for that. If there's one thing Stephen King is like the best at when it comes to a certain trope, it's the coming of age. The Body is such a tender and sad coming of age story that kind of reminds you that friends sometimes unfortunately come and go in life. It is very introspective, incredibly reflective on things that we've all gone through. A tremendous story, tremendous. I'm really excited to rewatch the movie. It's been decades. And the breathing method. I had no idea what the story was even going to be about. And my goodness. On the surface, it's about a gentleman's club. Not like that kind of gentleman's club, but like a club for men to come and swap stories. And one man in particular comes with a quite jarring story of a woman whose sole ambition in his life is to give birth at any cost. Yeah, I'm just going to leave that one at that. That was it was a bit much. It's my least favorite novella of the bunch, but holy cow! Different seasons as a whole. If you are wondering, hey Ian, where do I start with Stephen King? I think Different Seasons is a fantastic place to start for anyone who wants to dip their toes into his writing and his characters, but not really be all that scared. None of these are really horror. Some of them are very quite suspenseful and creepy, but for the most part, this is like literary, historical fiction. It's all about the characters. So don't worry, going into this, I think you'll be fine. He may leave you on edge, but that is what he does best. Magnificent. Let's watch Stand By Me. Yeah, again, not happening. I also used footage from Stand By Me. It was so bloody funny. Like, that movie is so freaking hilarious. And I had so many good shots. The montage was hilarious, but nope. Copyright. Guess what? No. One novel remains, and that is Cujo. Cujo, baby. The infamous Cujo. A book about a rabid Saint Bernard that terrorizes, could you guess it? Another fictional town by Stephen King. One that we've actually already experienced just once in this video. This is another Castle Rock story. Could have guessed it. A lot of his novels are based here. A lot of his short stories are based here. So it's just always fun to return. Like I said, story about a rabid Saint Bernard. So far, I am 100 pages deep. This is not a long novel at all. I think it's like 420 pages. Hello friends, family, and intimate reading associates. So I am halfway through this sucker. Crazy. Absolutely insane. This has to be one of the most relentlessly paced Stephen King novels of all time. Doing a bit of research, I know that this is the novel that is famous for him not remembering writing this book at all because of how jacked up on cocaine he was, which explains a lot. The pace is crazy, but there's so much happening. I know that this book is rumored to have been written over the course of one weekend, but then I've also found other sources where it says that he wrote it over the course of 3 months. I haven't heard any definitive thing from Stephen's point of view except that he does not remember a bloody aspect of writing this book. It's funny, but it's also quite sad, because I'm not here to laugh at a man's struggles and his vices. Stephen, I'm glad you're good. Stephen, I'm glad you're king. Oh God. Stephen, I'm glad you're clean, queen. Oh. Stephen, I'm glad you're clean, king. But this book, dude, this is a book about people and their struggles with each other, and there just so happens to be a giant 200-pound rabid dog taking people out. It's so entertaining, but at the same time, I'm like, really, what was the point? There's one aspect of this book that I want explored more, and that's what's in the closet. For those of you who've read it, like, do I get there? Like, I understand Cujo, oh, wow, scary. What's in the closet? We have 210 pages to go. I'm gonna get as much as I can tonight done, and I'll catch you later. I finished Cujo. I freaking did it. Every single Stephen King book that I own, kind of, has been read. I now have 3. Another one came in the mail. Let me show you that one real quick. The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon Yes. Kimmy, thank you so much for sending me this. Was such a pleasant surprise. So this is a story I've been wanting to read of his for so long because my parents rant and rave about this one. So this couldn't have been better timing. But what do I think about Cujo? Another pleasant surprise. You know, all I knew about Cujo was that it was about a rabid Saint Bernard. That's it. But I didn't know if it was like a Stephen King cosmic thing where like the dog got possessed, or, you know, some kind of creepy, weird skinwalker, or like a shapeshifter kind of thing. I was surprised at how far-reaching those estimations were, but I also was pleasantly surprised at how much I enjoyed what actually happened. Stephen King, dude, he can write a story. He's one of those authors that he could write about anything and I'd read it. Really. He could write a horror novel about grass growing or paint drying and I would be there. And Cujo was no different. I get the hype. It is so well written. It's one of Stephen King's like best prose. A book about a dog attacking people? That's wild how beautiful he wrote this. And of course, being based in Castle Rock makes it that much better. One of my favorite Stephen King books of all time is set in Castle Rock. He is the ultimate storyteller. If you guys are curious and you're wondering, Ian, where should I start? Cujo's not a bad start. It's just a book about a dog and people that get caught in a really bad situation, but it's good. But all right, folks, that's it. I have finally read all of the crap. Why do I keep saying that? That's not true. I've read most of the Stephen King books that I own. Another Stephen King video down. Plenty more to come. Again, if you're interested in Squarespace, head on over to squarespace.com to start a free trial today, or click the link down below in the description to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. See you in the next one. I don't know what that'll be, but it'll be a good one. You know, I was gonna have these end credits be filled with the montage of the third movie that I needed to watch, but guess what? Copyright, that's not happening. So, whatever. Have a nice day. Like and subscribe. Tell your friends.